Hello everyone, it's Steve Lookner. How are you? Right Side Broadcasting. We are back with the pre-show for the White House press briefing. I think the last time we did pre-show was when Sean Spicer was press secretary, not Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So it's been a little while, and I just want to get up on the screen here myself, just so I can see what's going on. So we're going to do a pre-show. There's going to be the press briefing at, let's see, the press briefing is going to be at 1:45 p.m. from the White House. It is 1:09 p.m. right now. Sarah Sanders will be giving it. So we will take you right up until the pre-show, until the press briefing. After the press briefing, we will do a short post-show because President Trump is having an event which we will also broadcast at Right Side Broadcasting, and that is a event. It's a ceremony honoring the first responders to the shooting of Representative Steve Scalise and the other Congress people who were and related people who were injured in that attack about a month or so ago, was it? So we're going to bring that to you. That is at 3 p.m. Eastern. So you will be able to watch that at Right Side Broadcasting. If you'd like to watch that, we're going to have another window open with that. So you can find that on our YouTube page, Right Side Broadcasting. So welcome. It's good to be back. I was at the rally the last couple of days. And I also want to, real quick here, it's better when I pop out your chat so I can, not that I see the chat the whole time, but I'm just rearranging little things on my window and on my desktop here. So it's good to be back. I've been the last couple days. I've been in Youngstown, Ohio. Margaret Howell and I were covering the rally. If you haven't seen the rally by some chance, quite an excited crowd there, a loud crowd, very energetic, and a very energetic rally. So if you want, you can watch that on our YouTube page, Right Side Broadcasting at YouTube. Hello to everybody on Facebook as well. If we're live on Facebook yet today, actually we might not be, so I won't say hi to you. But I'll say hi when we go live to Facebook. So we're going to talk in this pre-show about some of the things that Sarah Sanders will be asked about today in the press briefing. Would love to hear from you, though. So if you have some thoughts on the big issues of the day that Sarah Sanders might be asked about, I have a list here. There's so many. We'll talk about them. Scaramucci, Jeff Sessions, Lisa Murkowski, transgender policy, skinny repeal of the health bill. If you have thoughts on any topics, write to me on Twitter. I am at @Lookner, @LOOKNER. I'd love to read your comment on the air. So give me a shout. Let me know what you're thinking. And what should I begin with today? What should I begin with? Well, I guess the thing that'll be first asked about and that the news is talking about is this whole Scaramucci-Priebus feud. So to me, the stuff with like the Scaramucci-Priebus feud stuff, how the networks are getting into that, we're really getting into the land of like soap opera news coverage, where I honestly think that there are a lot more things more important to what happens to American people and to America than the status of the Scaramucci-Priebus relationship. But that has been the chief focus that I've seen in the media today so far. And just to go over, in case you're not caught up, so Anthony Scaramucci got hired as communications director last week, okay, in the White House. There were these rumors going around that he's had some friction. A lot of people reported that he's had some friction with Reince Priebus. And maybe Reince Priebus didn't want him to get hired. So last night, what happened is that Scaramucci, around 10 p.m., sent a tweet out that said something to the effect of, actually, I might even have it here. I can show you. Let me go look it up here. Might as well show you. Although he deleted his tweet, so I can't show you. But I can show you the tweet after that. Let's see if I can find that one. I can show you the one after that. All right, so the original tweet said something like, complained about Scaramucci's financial disclosure form. It had been reported on in Politico and it had been leaked. And Scaramucci was suggesting in the tweet that somebody on the inside had leaked it to Politico, and he wanted these leaks to stop. And then at the end of the tweet, he said, at Reince45. So some people in the media took that as saying he's blaming Reince Priebus for leaking Scaramucci's personal financial disclosure form to Politico. Now, so then in about an hour after that, hour and a half after that, he posted another tweet, Scaramucci, that I can show you. And here, I'll show you that right now. And that's where he said, so you can see at the bottom there, last night, Scaramucci appears to want Priebus investigated by FBI. So what the original Scaramucci tweet said was something like, it complained about his personal financial disclosure form being, as he claimed, leaked, and he said, Scaramucci, that he was going to contact the feds about this. He was going to contact the FBI about these leaks. And he also said at Reince45 at the end. And so some people like Axios said he appears to want Priebus investigated by FBI. And at that point, Scaramucci deleted the original tweet and then wrote, wrong. Tweet was public notice to leakers that all senior administration officials are helping to end illegal leaks. So here he denied that he was blaming Reince Priebus for the leak. But then he did a CNN interview this morning with Chris Cuomo, which I hadn't watched because it was a half-hour interview, and I've been reading to catch up on other news, and that I did not prioritize watching that interview. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. I felt like there were more important things I needed to catch up on. So, but there was an interview, and hold on, let me come back to me for a second. And from reports I saw, some people were saying that in the interview, he was saying that his relationship with Reince Priebus wasn't that good. Let's see if I can find a quick summary of that for you. I can show you something really brief about that. CNN, Cuomo, Scaramucci. We'll do a little search here. I'm seeing a lot of like, hey, you can watch the interview here. That doesn't really help me at this point. But anyways, one thing he said in the interview with Chris Cuomo on CNN this morning, Scaramucci said that he compared the relationship of him and Priebus to Cain and Abel, and as you know, they were brothers, but one of them killed the other. So, well, you might not know that, but anyways, they were brothers, but one of them in the Bible, but one of them killed the other. So the press has been reading into that and saying, what did he mean by that? So there are these questions about how the relation is between Scaramucci and Priebus, and there's all this speculation going on, like does Scaramucci want Priebus fired? Might Scaramucci take over for Priebus if he is fired? So there's lots of this stuff going on. But I personally find it kind of soap opera-y, and I find like when media focuses on this stuff to the exclusion of other stuff, it's like they're focusing on soap opera aspects of the administration rather than like important news. And there's lots of other news going on that I think is really important. So anyways, I'm happy to talk about that, but I'm guessing there will be a number of questions about this. Since the media has been talking about this so much, I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I'd say the first 5 or 6 questions in the briefing to Sarah Sanders will be about Scaramucci and Priebus and that stuff. So just something I think I wanted to mention because I'm guessing it'll be asked about in the briefing, which is coming up in 28 minutes. So you've sent me some comments. I think I want to go read your comments right now. But during this pre-show, this is the pre-show for the Sarah Sanders White House press briefing coming up soon. Write to me. We take your comments. We take your questions. I'm at Lookner, at Lookner on Twitter. Write to me there. Or my email address, which is below. And also, thanks to everybody who watched our coverage of the rally. The rally was 2 days ago. It's been a lot of travel this week. Rally was on Tuesday. Thanks to everybody who watched. Thanks to everybody who donated. The donations, we really appreciate because those, as you know, if you watch us regularly, they help us stay on the air. So while we're on the air today, if you're enjoying our coverage, please consider donating. Your donations will allow us to cover the next rally and to continue to do more White House coverage, breaking news coverage, and all of that. Thanks to you. We're viewer supported. You help us do that. If you want to donate, a couple easy ways to do that. Go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Or in the YouTube chat, right next to this broadcast, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat, click on the $sign. You can donate that way. Thanks to the moderators for moderating the chats today. I appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Thank you. Don John T. Help me out. Don John T. Sent me the text of Scaramucci's tweet, the original tweet last night, which was subsequently deleted. I probably could look this up too. So hold on, let me see something real quick. So thank you, Don John. I'll read yours, but I'll read what you sent me in a second. But you reminded me that I could have just searched Twitter, and because I'm sure somebody posted the deleted tweet after the fact, because they'd captured it or whatever. Let's see. Ah, there we go. Thank you. So thank you, Don John T, for reminding me. Here is the Scaramucci tweet from last night, the original one, and it says, "In light of the leak of my financial disclosure info, which is a felony, I will be contacting FBI and the Justice Department. Hashtag swamp at Rhines45." And that's the tweet that some people said, some media was saying, oh, well, he's gonna try to get Rhines Priebus busted for leaking his financial disclosure info. And he denied it in the tweet after that. So thank you, Don John T, for letting me know that, for reminding me I could just go search, because somebody would have posted the deleted tweet. I'm just making sure I've read all of your comments. Fred Golubiowski says, "I turned off Infowars to watch RSBN. You folks are so much better." Now, let me say, Fred, we really appreciate you watching us. So thank you so much for watching us. But you know what? To us, the more media channels, the better. With Infowars or other media channels, we want, because the more media channels there are, the more you get a choice. Some people love Infowars. That's totally cool. Some people like the Huffington Post. That's cool. So we want to give you an alternative. We want to give you something that's different. So for people who like what we're doing, you have a place to go. So we do appreciate you watching us, Fred. But you know what? Feel free to watch a lot of media too. So thank you, Fred, for watching us. Hey, Music World just gave $5 and said, "Chipping in, thank you, RSBN." Thank you, Music World. That's so kind of you. We're going to put that toward the next rally, because I think the next rally is going to come soon, but I don't know. They've been one a month. It's been pretty steady, one a month. So if nothing else, it'll come in a month if they stay on schedule. Maybe it'll even come sooner, because the Ohio one seemed to go pretty well for the president. You know, it sold out. It more than sold out. A lot of people didn't get in, so there was really good response and a good attendance and good crowd response there. So I'm thinking maybe the president will, and the president's team will think, hey, people want more of these rallies. So we'll see what happens. Carolyn A. Yippity68 writes, made a donation of $20 and said, "God bless President Donald J. Trump. God bless the United States of America. God bless the world. God bless RSBN, MAGA, USA, USA, USA. I love all of you." That is so nice, Carolyn A. And also, it's so nice of you to make that donation. We really appreciate it. Those donations are what allows us to be on the air bringing coverage to you. So thank you, Carolyn A. Yippity68. Also, special shout out to all the right side viewers that came up to us during the rally and said hello. It was really nice meeting all of you, and especially nice meeting Tom O'Neill, because Tom came up. We had a nice conversation with him, and there were a bunch of, I guess it was like a young Republicans group. He said some of us are going out to eat after, and Maggie and I need to get a bite after. So we said, well, we'll go over and meet up with them. And it turns out they had it was like a restaurant. It was a BJ's restaurant in the area near Youngstown. And they had 8 tables together or something. It was 40 to 50 people, it looked like, at this one really long table. So they were having a big gathering. It was all people who'd gone to the rally, who had just become friendly with each other, I guess, from before. They knew each other from before, but they'd met up at the rally and then afterwards gone to eat after. So it was nice to get to meet a lot of, we talked to a number of Ohio Republican supporters there, and it was nice to get to meet them and nice to spend some time with our viewer, Tom. So we appreciated Tom doing that for us. Okay, I want to talk about some more stories that Sarah Sanders is going to be asked about, some more news that she's going to be asked about. We've only talked about Scaramucci-Priebus relationship. That's one we talked about. And this briefing is going to be coming up in 22 minutes, so keep it right here. We're going to go to the briefing as soon as it starts. Let's see. I wrote my notes down about all the different... Oh, well, what will be the next one? What will be the second thing? I think the second thing... Well, the next thing I want to talk about is the health bill. And I'm sure there'll be questions on that. And, you know, I've been seeing reports... So, where the health bill is at now, it's in the Senate. The Senate is trying to pass some version of a health bill so that it's not going to be the same as the House version. It's going to be more moderate than their version. And then, if they can pass a bill, then them in the House can get together and discuss, you know, hey, can we figure out a compromise that we can both pass? What I'm hearing I've been reading some stuff this morning, like the Wall Street Journal had a story on this, suggesting that what the Senate might do is pass. They call it a skinny repeal, where it's a bill which just removes a few important parts, but a few parts of Obamacare. For example, it would say it would remove the Obamacare mandate that people have to buy insurance. It would remove the Obamacare mandate that employers provide their employees with insurance, and it would also it would keep like the Obamacare mandate. It would keep the Obamacare Medicaid expansion. It would keep Obamacare's mandate that pre-existing conditions can't be charged. Somebody with pre-existing conditions can't be charged more. It would keep the Obama mandate that like all health insurance policies have to cover a certain basic amount of different items. So this skinny repeal, from the sense I'm getting with this skinny repeal is that basically the Senate doesn't want to not pass anything. The Senate doesn't want healthcare reform to die in the Senate. So I think there's a big motivation here for the Senate to just pass something this week. Because whatever they pass this week isn't going to become law anyway, because whatever they pass is going to be different from what the House passes. So even if certain senators, let's say there are moderate Republicans who don't want to vote for a health care bill and get rid of Obamacare, it's in their interest, it feels like, to at least vote for something this week so they can say, well, we tried, we didn't kill it initially. And then when it gets down to it in the next few weeks after, they'll say, well, I can't vote on the House-Senate compromise. So at a certain point, to me, what the Senate is doing now, as I see it, is, and maybe I'm wrong, I just see it as they're trying to pass something to keep this going. Even because just, again, there's such a political motivation. There'd be such a political cost if they didn't pass anything this week and it just died in the Senate. So at least if they pass something, even if ultimately they can't agree with the House, no one can say they didn't pass anything. So I'd look for them. Personally, I think they're going to pass something. Maybe you disagree with me. But I have a hard time. I still need to be convinced that when this is all said and done, the House and the Senate will agree on a bill and it will get passed by both chambers. So just especially because of the Senate, anything, it's been said before, anything conservative enough for the House is probably going to be too conservative for the Senate. Senate, not a very small majority in the Senate, so that's the thought. But anyways, I'm guessing that Sarah Sanders will be asked questions about how the health bill stuff is going, so that's another issue to look forward to being discussed in the press briefing, if the entire press briefing is not taken up with Scaramucci questions. Okay, this is the pre-show for the Sarah Sanders briefing, White House press briefing. It's coming at you in 18 minutes from now. 18 minutes from now, we will be going to it. And shout out to Joe, Right Side CEO, who is producing today and bringing you all of the lovely graphics and everything on our broadcast. We are taking your comments in the pre-show as we always do. If you have comments, write in to me at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER. I'd love to read your comment on the air. Any comment on anything going on in the news that Sarah Sanders might be asked about, anything going on with the administration, would love to hear from you. That's something different we do here at Right Side Broadcasting. We report the news, and we try to report it without an agenda, but we're also interactive here. We cover the news with you. So we really enjoy when you write in, you let us know what you're thinking. Speaking of which, Carl Peterson just wrote me and just said, Carl, I got an email from you, and it's like 4 words long, and it looks like it might have been like a typo or something. So your email might have not gotten through to me, Carl, in the intended form. So if you wanted to email me again, Carl, if I just got a messed up version of it. Jude, I just saw your email here too. It's about something else, but I will get to that after the broadcast. Thank you, Jude, for writing in. Okay, let's move on to another story that will be talked about in the press briefing today, I think, which is Jeff Sessions. It's the endless Jeff Sessions story. So if you've been following the news, you know that President Trump has been critical of Attorney General Sessions over the past week or so, has sent out some tweets about Attorney General Sessions, saying things like he should have gotten rid of McCabe because McCabe's wife got this big donation from a Hillary Clinton ally. So, things like that. and President Trump not happy with Sessions not recusing himself. So what will happen with Jeff Sessions? That's another one of these things where, look, it's not unimportant whether Jeff Sessions is Attorney General or not, but the way it's being covered, again, I feel like the mainstream media coverage of it is excessive soap opera coverage, where it gets to be this soap opera. Here's the thing. The funny thing is this: the media gets all into a frenzy about will Sessions be fired or will he resign or won't he? It's some big deal to them whether he does or not. But the thing is, let's say he did resign and he was replaced, they would do very little analysis of what the policy effects of this might be. They're covering, they feed on the drama aspect and they don't even cover the policy aspect. So it's not like now they analyze this and they say, okay, let's look at if he was replaced, who might replace him, and how the policies of the Justice Department might change. They don't do that. It's just a big soap opera. Will he or won't he be replaced? It's will John and Judy keep dating on a soap opera? And if they don't date, will Joe date Judy? It's this, to me, it's that level of soap opera-y style coverage, which drives me crazy. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of, I'm pretty sure you'll get a bunch of questions about the Sessions thing going on. And again, not that it shouldn't be reported on. It's just so much of the news the last few days has just been Sessions and Scaramucci drama soap opera coverage. Let's see here. Transgender policy. That I'm guessing will be asked about because a report came out this morning that said there was some reporting done this morning that said the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the military, a couple things. One report came out that said the Joint Chiefs of Staffs, the head of the different military branches, were not aware of President Trump's transgender policy that he came out with yesterday before he tweeted it out. That policy he announced, again, was he says that transgender people will not be allowed to serve in the military. So there's a report that the heads of the military branches, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, didn't know about this in advance. Also, there's a report that, what was the other one I wanted to say? There was that one, and there was another one, which was, what was it? I can't remember. I'll remember it in a second. Why can't I remember that? The Joint Chiefs of Staff one. What was the other part of this story that I wanted to report to you? It involved defense. It involved the transgender policy. Oh, I remember. The Pentagon also said this morning, reportedly, that I saw reports of this, that they would not be implementing the policy, the transgender policy, until they got an official order from the president. So they haven't gotten an official order yet. They just saw the tweet. So this policy hasn't been officially ordered yet. Now, I will say this. I think this will be asked about in the briefing, and it's perfectly fine to ask about it. I will say this, though. One school of thought says the president should never announce a policy like this without consulting with the military leaders and without letting them know in advance. I understand that view. You can make an argument for it. Another argument somebody could make, however, is, look, this is how the president likes to do he likes to announce it to the American people. He knows what he's going to do. He said he's consulted with military people about this. That's what he said yesterday. So it's not like he hasn't talked to military people, but maybe he's someone who, when he decides on a policy, he wants to tell the American people first. Now, people might agree or disagree with that, but I could see an argument. My point is that while there could be an argument for doing it the way where you let everybody know in advance, I understand that argument where you let everybody know in advance and then you go to the people and announce it. That doesn't mean that there's not an argument for announcing things directly to the people. It hasn't really been done that way in the past, but President Trump is doing it differently. But I think if you're going to consider whether that was a bad thing that he did that, I think you need to consider both sides of it. So just my thought on that. But I'm guessing that will definitely be asked about this morning. There'll be a number of questions about that. What do you think about these issues? I'd like to hear from you. Write to me at @Lookner, @LOOKNER on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, you can follow me there. If you like, I tweet out a lot about our breaking news stuff. But also, you can follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter @RSB Network. And also feel free to follow Right Side Broadcasting on Facebook. Like and follow us on Facebook. We post a lot of videos there. And of course on YouTube you can subscribe to us and click the notifications bell when you do subscribe. So you get notifications of all our videos. We got a lot of new subscribers and likers and followers this week at the rally the last couple of days. So that was really exciting for us. If any of you new followers or subscribers are out there watching now, welcome. Hope you're enjoying it. Miss Tree writes in, I agree, the media thrives on the drama. That is from Miss Tree. Okay, I am going to get to another story. Well, let's do a time check here. We have 11 minutes. 11 minutes until the Sarah Sanders press briefing. We will be on live with it. You can see the briefing room right there, and I'm in the corner. That looks very nice, Joe. I see the way you did that today. Joe's been working with the graphics. Joe's excellent at doing graphics. So we're just waiting for the press briefing. As soon as it comes on, we'll be on live with it. I will disappear, but then I will come back afterwards. Remember, I'll be back for the post show. Don't go anywhere after the press briefing. I'll be right back. We'll take your comments on the press briefing. You have any comments you'd like me to read on the air about the briefing, how it's going, you noticed something, you want to say something about it, write to me during the briefing on Twitter @Lookner, and as soon as the briefing's over, I'll read your comment on the air. And our post show will be short because, as I mentioned before, at 3 p.m. there's an event where President Trump will be honoring the first responders to the Scalise shooting. So when Steve Scalise and the other Congress people and people involved with them were shot, very unfortunately, about a month ago. The first responders came, and they're the ones who prevented further injury and loss of life. So President Trump is honoring them today. We will be showing that at Right Side Broadcasting. If you want to watch that, you can go to our Right Side page on YouTube, and you can see the link there for it. I think the link's already up for it. So that's where to find it. Okay, let's get back to doing some of the stories here. I'm also real quick, I'm just going to do a quick check of like what's going on. You know, sometimes when we're on the air for a little bit before the briefing, I miss some news because I'm like paying attention to the broadcast. I just saw, this is kind of interesting. So Drudge Report, this is the front of Drudge right now. I think it was Zeke Miller who tweeted this out and made me realize that. Yeah, Zeke Miller tweeted this out. So Drudge is saying, so you know, this is something that could be asked about in the press briefing today. One of the reasons Scaramucci was supposedly brought in was to handle some of the leak issues they've been having at the White House. So that tweet last night, the one he deleted, while there's this question as to whether it applied to Reince Priebus or not, what's not in question is that Scaramucci is very upset about leaks, and he's going to work to bust the leakers. Oh, you know, I believe, if I'm remembering right, something he said in his CNN interview this morning is he said years ago, he said leaks, national security leaks, when they're national security leaks, like have sometimes happened, he says those are treasonous and people used to get executed for that. And he wants strong punishment for those leakers. There was another issue I wanted to talk about. Somebody says, @Lookner, I can see you're wearing shorts. I don't know how you can see this, but I am wearing shorts. Some broadcasts I wear shorts. It's very warm here in Alabama, and I don't appear on the... Now, how can you see this, Sharon? That's what I'm very interested in knowing. How can you see I'm wearing shorts? Did I stand up or something? I don't know, but you're right. Hey, we're honest here at Right Side Broadcasting. We don't conceal stuff from you. Sharon, did you just guess I was wearing shorts and not really see it? Okay, so let's see here. What was the other? I had written down my long list of topics that I thought that President Trump might be asked about today. President Trump. I'm losing my mind. That Sarah Sanders might be asked about today. Sessions, Scaramucci. Lisa Murkowski. That's one. So there was a story that came out this morning. Let me show you this. I can show you that story. They're nice shorts that I'm wearing, though. Sorry, folks, I'm just getting this story on the screen here. Here it is. Check it out. So this story came out this morning. This is from the Weekly Standard. Trump administration threatens retribution against Alaska over Murkowski health votes. So Lisa Murkowski has not been on board with the health bill. She's a Republican senator from Alaska. It's a moderate. It's not. She's middle. She's more moderate. The state's more of a kind of middle of the road state, not super conservative, and she has voted against the Senate health proposal so far, and this report came out that I'm showing you, if you look at the second paragraph here, that each of Alaska's 2 Republican senators had received a phone call from Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke letting them know the vote. So this is specifically the vote on Tuesday against debating. Lisa Murkowski voted against debating Obamacare repeal, and I believe she also voted against the proposals that came up in the Senate the last couple of days. So reportedly, each of the Republican senators, including Lisa Murkowski, received a phone call from Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke letting them know the vote had put Alaska's future with the administration in jeopardy. So supposedly. And here we have a quote from Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan, said the call from Zinke heralded a troubling message. I'm not going to go into the details, but I fear that the strong economic growth, pro-energy, pro-mining, pro-jobs, and personnel from Alaska who are part of these policies are going to stop, Sullivan said. So the basic idea here is what the story is saying is that because Lisa Murkowski, a Republican senator, is not supporting President Trump's health bill proposals, she might not get support from the administration. They might not, they might cut off funding or not approve certain funding for Alaska. Now, what I'll say about this, and this is what I tweeted out this morning, I don't think this kind of thing is uncommon. I'm guessing, from everything I've read about history, different presidents, this kind of thing is entirely common when presidents, have a carrot and stick approach to legislation where they say, hey, there's trade-offs. You vote for me on this, I'll give you this. If you don't vote for me on this, vote with me on this, you might not get this. I guess what's striking to me, though, is that you usually don't see these kind of stories reported. So perhaps the big difference is that there was some kind of leak in this case where there normally wouldn't be a leak. Now, you'd think normally the Murkowski people wouldn't want to leak it because if they leak it, then maybe the White House gets even angrier at them. But maybe they did. Maybe somebody from Murkowski's office leaked it. Maybe someone from somebody from Murkowski's office was talking to somebody else and they heard it and they leaked it. Maybe somebody from the White House leaked it. I don't know. So I don't know where the leak came from. It just strikes me that I think this kind of thing is pretty common, but you usually don't see detailed stories like this about it. So I'm guessing this will be asked about, this story in the, I'm so small now, but it doesn't matter that I'm small. Joe, if you're listening, I'm sure you are. I went small, but the big thing is that people can see the article in the corner. I want people to be able to see the article. So they can see the headline of the article. So I'm good with that. I'm okay with that. So I'll go back to full screen here. But so I think this will be asked about in the Sarah Sanders press briefing, which is, in about 3 minutes, I believe it's going to start. We'll go to it. Juggalo Caesar says, you guys don't lie like the fake news CNN. We do not lie. We are straight with you. Ask us what you want. If you ask us like very personal things like what are the password to our certain sites, we're not going to tell you that, but we'll just say we're not telling you. Let's see here. Jimmy Jackson, I got your message about wanting to make an app for us. If you have any questions about right side stuff, always the best thing to do is write to feedback@rsbn.tv. Feedback@rsbn.tv. That is our general email address where you can address complaints, questions, praise, concerns. Feedback@rsbn.tv. Thank you for writing in, Jimmy. Boog Rowe writes in, Steve, in other news, our military hero's marine dog with cancer get tear-filled farewell. RSBN salute Cena. Dog's name, sad, thank you. Thanks, Boog, for writing in. I hadn't seen that story, but thank you for writing in. Feel free to send me a link if you'd like, Boog. and I'm just keeping an eye. And as soon as the briefing is going to start, Joe will let me know. And I should apologize. So, I think we might have, while we were setting up today, we on our office cam, some of our stream of just when I was setting up things in here it's not supposed to be live yet, but it might have gone live. I said some naughty words because my internet, my Spectrum internet went out for a few minutes today. It's been going out a lot over the last 3 weeks, and I'm very angry at it, so I said some naughty words about it. So if any of you heard those naughty words, it was not intentional that you heard them, and I apologize. But I'm not going to apologize for saying naughty words about Spectrum to Spectrum because their internet's been really bad here the last few weeks. Okay, let's see. So we are at 1:44 right now. Anytime now the briefing will start. I'm going to stay on the air until the briefing starts. As soon as it's going to start, Joe will let me know. So, and stick around after the briefing because we have a post show right after the briefing. And at 3 p.m., we're covering live President Trump's ceremony honoring the first responders to the Steve Scalise shooting. And a quick reminder, we are viewer supported. If you like being able to watch this coverage, if you like being able to watch a pre-show for the briefings and watch coverage not on CNN or MSNBC or Fox, something different. If you like that we covered the full rally, which MSNBC and CNN didn't even show the president's speech, but we covered the whole rally, all the speakers. We interviewed people for hours in line, inside, all the different, not all the rally goers obviously, but we interviewed lots of different rally goers. If you like having that option, please consider making a donation because we can only stay on the air thanks to your support. We are viewer supported. So if you like our coverage and you like having an option to the mainstream media, an alternative, if you want to donate, you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Even small donations are super appreciated. They help us stay on the air. So whatever donation you like to make, we really will be happy about it. rsbn.tv/donate, or in the YouTube chat room next to this broadcast, go to the $ at the bottom of the chat. It's so easy. You just click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room and you can donate that way. Dave Reinecke writes in, maybe it's just me, but does Scaramucci look like a young Al Pacino? Al Pacino came out as one word in your tweet and it says ALPACCINO. So I was like, Al Pacino? But does he look like a young Al Pacino? I don't even remember what Al Pacino looked like when he was younger. I have to look that up, Dave Reinecke. But you very well might be right. Ryan Bardwell just sent me a breaking 911 story that said police respond to multiple shootings near site of GOP ballpark attack. Now, that very well might not be terrorism or anything. Breaking 911 on Twitter sometimes does this thing where they take they like to take like an unfortunate but sort of non-terrorist occurrence of violence and then report it as if sort of it's like terrorism. I think maybe it's clickbait. So I'll have to look at that later during the briefing. But thank you, Ryan, for letting me know. Okay. All right. So it's now 1:47. The briefing was supposed to start at 1:45, but commonly the briefings run a little late. So I'm going to stay on until the briefing comes on. As soon as Sarah Sanders walks out, I'm disappearing, but I'll be back for the post show right here. Let's see. Oh, I got a link about this. I'll see if I can get this on the air before the briefing starts. This is from our viewer, Boog Rowe. And Boog Rowe sent me this link that he wanted people to know about. Oops. Oh, no. It's Marine dog with cancer gets tear-filled farewell. So I'm sorry you can't see the headline, but I'll just show you the article. Hundreds of people came together to salute and say a tear-filled final goodbye to a cancer-stricken dog who served 3 tours in Afghanistan. That's on Yahoo News. You can look for the headline, Marine dog with cancer gets tear-filled farewell. Thank you, Boog Rowe, for sharing that with us. All right, we'll go back to me. And just another reminder, if you'd like to, during the White House press briefing with Sarah Sanders, if you have comments about the briefing, if you have any feedback about it, you want me to read it on the air, write to me during the briefing and I'll read it on the air after the briefing. I'm at @Lookner on Twitter, @LOOKNER. I'm just checking to see if there was any more news updates the last couple minutes. Everything seems stable right now. Oh, I guess so. We are on me full. There we go. All right. I was like, where'd the briefing room go? There it is. Ah, it's back. Wonderful. And the briefings, you know, so it looks like they're going to start. They're going to be regularly televised now. So for the last few weeks of Sean Spicer's term as press secretary, even though he wasn't doing the briefing, Sarah Sanders was. I believe it was June 29th. Before Scaramucci was hired, there were about 3.5 weeks starting in late June where there were no televised briefings. And then Scaramucci took over as communications director, and he said the TV cameras are back on. And ever since then, there have been briefings every day televised. I don't think there's been any untelevised briefings. So we will, for the televised briefings, do pre-show and post-show every day. We hope you join us. You can always find us here doing pre-coverage for the press briefings. I think we're the only ones who do that too. So what else? What else might be talked about today? Let me real quick. So to sum up the different issues we've said she's going to be asked about today. I think she's going to be asked about a ton of Scaramucci, questions about the Scaramucci Priebus soap opera. I call it a soap opera because I don't think it's really that as newsworthy as the news media is making it. So there'll be tons of that. There'll be a bunch of questions on Jeff Sessions. Will he resign or not? That's going to be happening every press briefing until that's figured out, because the media loves asking about that. Transgender policy questions, skinny repeal of healthcare, Lisa Murkowski. Pressure on Lisa Murkowski for not voting with the president on healthcare. So those might be asked about. What else might be asked about? Is there anything else big? Oh, I wonder, will anybody ask about, you know, President Trump announced the new Foxconn factory in Wisconsin yesterday. There was a big event. You can watch it on Right Side Broadcasting, where he announced this new factory that's going to employ, I think, around 10,000 people permanently, and I think create about 20,000 temporary jobs. Foxconn helps manufacture iPhones. They're a Taiwanese parts supplier company. Will he be asked about that at all, or not? Maybe is that like restricted to yesterday? Is that old news because it's yesterday? We'll see. But that could be another possible thing he's asked about. Also, the Justice Department came out today. New York Times has this on their front page, and they came out today and they said that they don't believe the Civil Rights Act from originally passed, I think in '63, it was in the '60s, doesn't prevent gays from employee discrimination. And if you actually look at the law, the way the law is written, it says, if I can get it up here if I can check it. I had it out here. Civil Rights Act of 1964 says it bars discrimination in the workplace based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And the Justice Department is saying, well, the way the law is written, it doesn't protect gays, and if Congress wants to protect gays, that's fine. They should just change the law. The New York Times had a very misleading headline about it, which I tweeted about, and it's still up, and it says, Justice Department weighs in against protections for gays in the workplace. That seems a bit misleading, because it seems like what the Justice Department is really saying is like, look, we want the law to be enforced as written. They didn't weigh in against any kind of protection for gays in the workplace. What they said is if Congress wants this, they should pass a law because it's not in the current law. So I found that a bit misleading from the New York Times. But anyways, this story, I don't know if this is something where the press, I think it's probably likely somebody will ask at least one question about this story, about the Justice Department saying the Civil Rights Act does not cover gays in the workplace. I think somebody could definitely, it's totally consistent for somebody to think, I totally think gays should have legal protection in the workplace, but also think the Civil Rights Act does not cover that. And if you do think that, you would think what the Justice Department is saying, well, Congress should pass a further law to explicitly say no discrimination against gays in the workplace, which they have not done yet. Andrew Sova says, is it really a possibility that Ted Cruz could replace Jeff Sessions? I mean, who knows? There's lots of speculation going on. If Jeff Sessions wasn't Attorney General, who would it be? Would it be Rudy Giuliani? Would it be Ted Cruz? Would it be something else? At this point, I have no idea. For all you know, he's not. You know, President Trump has no real intention of getting rid of Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions has no intention of really leaving. I don't know. So at this point, it's kind of just a lot of speculation out there, Andrew. That's the best I can do on that. let's see here. Shelby had a comment. I talked before a little bit about how Spectrum Internet has had a lot of outages, and Shelby 2020 says 1,800 IBEW Local 3 technicians are on strike against Charter Spectrum and NYC. 121 days unfair labor practice. We can get way off into Spectrum Internet discussion, but I won't divert us from that. Juggalo Caesar says North Korea is supposed to nuke us today. I had not heard that, Juggalo Caesar. That's news to me. Although I have heard reports that we could very well might see an ICBM test, another one from North Korea in the next couple of days. Dave Reinecke says, I get so sick of the press asking the same question after they are told the answer. I wonder, Dave, if that's going to happen today with Scaramucci Priebus questions. I have a feeling it might a little bit. We are waiting. We're here. We're live. This is Right Side Broadcasting. We are waiting for the White House press briefing. You can see it on your screen. You can see the podium. It was supposed to start. It's a little late, actually. No, it's not, because it was supposed to start at 1:45, and it's now 1:54. I've seen them start much later. So let's see. Oh, this is an interesting story. AFP is reporting Venezuela is having a vote on Sunday, where basically they're voting on this proposal by President Maduro of Venezuela, to create a new governing body, which would basically be in control of the president. The United States this week, I think it was yesterday, they initiated some sanctions on Venezuela and Venezuelan officials, if I'm remembering this right. But the United States definitely said there will be consequences for Venezuela if this vote on Sunday gets approved and Maduro goes along with his plan to reorganize the government there, so that's much more under the control of Maduro. So I just saw this. This vote is on Sunday, and AFP is reporting, according to Breaking 911, against the vote. It says from Friday. So I guess that means starting tomorrow, throughout the weekend, you will not be able to protest the Sunday vote in Venezuela. And I've heard some speculation that if the vote passes, and I think it's likely to pass, because I think a lot of the opposition is just going to boycott the vote, from what I've heard, there might be some unrest going on in Venezuela. A lot of people see this as a really dire step if this vote gets approved, which I think it will, and if Maduro goes through with his plan to reorganize the government there and have this new constituent assembly. Also, I know Merkel has threatened Venezuela about this too. Okay. I'm seeing the room there. We're still waiting. We're still going with the Thank you for everybody who's just joined. As soon as this starts, as soon as Sarah Sanders walks out, we will bring the briefing to you. This is the pre-show. If you have any comments about anything that Sarah Sanders might be asked about, get your comment in quickly. I'll read it on the air before the briefing starts. At Lookner, at Lookner. You can also write to me on Twitter, that is. You can write to me during the briefing, and we're going to have a post-show after the briefing. Stick around after the briefing's done right here. I'll come on right after, and we'll talk about how the briefing went and get your comments and read them on the air. And please, if you enjoy Right Side Broadcasting's coverage, if you enjoy an alternative to the mainstream media, please consider donating to us, because we are viewer supported. You keep us on the air. If you want to donate, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or go to the YouTube chat room next to the broadcast. Click on the $sign at the bottom of the chat room. I'm seeing here. Okay, let's see if I can read this on the air before we start, because this is a statement from the Department of Defense about the transgender policy, which I had not seen yet today. If I can find it. Where'd it go? It's up here. There it is. I'm not going to... Well, if I show it on the air, I'm in the corner. I think it's going to be too small. Actually, I think I can. I'll just do this. Oops, that's not going to work. So let me read it to you. The statement from the Department of Defense is, the Department of Defense is awaiting formal guidance from the White House as a follow-up to the Commander-in-Chief's announcement on military service by transgender personnel. We will provide detailed guidance to the Department in the near future for how this policy will be implemented. This department will continue to focus on our mission of defending our nation and ongoing operations against our foes while ensuring all service members are treated with respect. So this is from the Department of Defense. And they say they're awaiting formal guidance from the White House because all they have now is the tweet that President Trump sent out saying he doesn't want transgendered people to serve in the military, but they're waiting for formal guidance about how to put this into place. And one issue, which hasn't been decided yet, at least as of yesterday, was what happens to the transgender people who are out as transgender but are already serving in the military. What happens to them? Do they have to leave now? The White House during the press briefing was asked about this yesterday. They said they hadn't. There wasn't a formal decision made yet. Will that be asked about again? Very possibly. We'll see. Let's see. Reagan Better writes in, Korea could have another long-range ICBM nuclear weapon by 2018, multiple sources. Yeah, Reagan Better, I don't know if this was asked about. I was traveling yesterday, so I didn't see the whole briefing. I didn't see the briefing. I just read about it after. But that is a big story that came out, that the estimates for how long it would take North Korea to get a ICBM that could hit the continental United States, all the different cities in the United States, was originally a few years, and recently it got changed to a year. Was it the Department of Defense? I'm not sure the exact body, but basically our government reportedly changed their estimate to a year. Does that change how we will act toward North Korea? Will that be asked about during the press briefing today? I don't know. I could see that being asked about as well. Juggalo Caesar just writes in, will Sarah be asked about North Korea? I think I just answered that. Yeah, I could see it. I guess my thought on this is that North Korea is very important and should be asked about every press briefing. The problem is a fair amount of every press briefing is taken up with soap opera style things like the Reince Scaramucci relationship. And will Sessions be replaced or won't he? Not to say those things shouldn't be reported on, but they get reported on a huge amount compared to their actual importance, I think, because of their soap opera-y, and the media thinks it gets ratings, and so they report on that stuff. So I think today, I think North Korea should definitely be asked about, but I wonder if some of the questions about policy stuff like that might get crowded out by some of the other stuff, based on my past experience watching these briefings. Let's see here. Troy Makovica writes in, my name is Troy, and I just want to thank you in helping our president get elected and not reporting fake news like CNN does. And if I had any money, I would 100% donate. Again, thank you. Again, thank you for being a trustworthy alternative news source on behalf of all Trump supporters everywhere. Thank you, Troy, for writing in and for your kind words and for watching us. And, if you don't have anything to donate, that's understandable. We understand. But you can also support us by liking our video on YouTube and sharing our video on Facebook. When you like and share our videos, that lets YouTube and Facebook know, hey, we should maybe let some other people know about these videos. And when you share our video, it also tells people who know you, hey, maybe check this out. So that helps spread the word about us. We're a small organization. We don't have the money to spend on all these advertisements and stuff. So you spreading the word about us is really how the word gets out about us. So thank you in advance for doing that. That's a very helpful thing you can do. We are, okay, it is. A couple more messages here. Hamfried, oh, excellent question. I forgot about this, Hamfried. Will the A1 brothers be a subject today? Will they ask about the A1 brothers? I totally forgot. I should have had this on my list. So President Trump this morning tweeted about the A1 brothers. I'm going to show you this tweet if I can get it on the air before Sarah Sanders comes on. If you didn't see President Trump's tweet about this, here it is. He retweeted about it, President Trump. Check it out. So President Trump retweeted this. And CBS pretty much bury IT scandal engulfing Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office. And you can see that President Trump himself, there's his Facebook page, he retweeted this. He retweeted this story. So what is this story about the A1 brothers? Well, I might not have time to go over the whole thing. But basically the idea is that there are several, I think there's more than two, I know there are at least two, brothers with the last name of A1 who are from Pakistan, and for a number of years in recent years, they had been working for Democrats in Congress doing IT stuff for them, doing tech stuff for them. And different reports have come out that there have been some financial improprieties on their part. There were some reports that came out that they could have shared information they had access to, like classified information, inappropriately with people they knew who shouldn't have had access to that information. They, in recent months, I know one of them, at a certain point, at least two of the brothers, but maybe more, were working for congressional members, and like wives and other families were, and a bunch of people from their family were working for Congress for Congress members, and made like millions of dollars doing so. And then they started getting investigated for all these financial improprieties. And just a couple days ago, one of the A1 brothers was arrested trying to leave the country, and he was charged with I believe it was fraud, because he had tried to take out a mortgage on a rental property reportedly, and he had said it was his primary residence and not the rental property. But there's lots of stuff out there on this about, I was reading some stories this morning about how they owed a lot of money, how his wife, the guy who was arrested, his wife already left the country recently. Before she left the country, they transferred $300,000 out of the country, and then when she left, they found $12,000 or somewhat around there amount of dollars in cash on her, but she was allowed to leave the country anyway. So there's all these questions about these people. There are investigations going on about the A1s. And Debbie, I believe the story is that other Congress people let go of the A1s, the people in that family, in recent months or years because they were being investigated. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz kept this A1 brother on as a worker, and like to keep him on, just changed his title from like tech whatever, which it wouldn't have been cool if he'd stayed on as that, so she made him an advisor. And there's all these questions about, like, you know, why is she so close to him? She told the I believe the Senate police it was, or the congressional police, that she said she tried to get his laptop back from them, and like threatened them if they didn't give her his laptop back, because I guess the laptop was an office laptop he'd been using to work on, but they're using it for their investigation. And there's a video out which a lot of people have watched, where she basically threatens them and says there'll be consequences for you if you don't give me this laptop back. So it's a story where, if you look at the story, a lot is not known about it, but there certainly is a lot that's interesting there, a lot of details. And I'm sorry I don't have the details all in my head just ready to give to you. But go look up, like the Daily Caller covered this A1 stories a bunch the last few weeks and months. So look up the Daily Caller and search A1 brothers, and you'll find a ton of stuff out there. But there's also the story that President Trump showed, he retweeted about today, this one here from townhall.com. So you can read that one if you want. Go to President Trump's Facebook page, and or Twitter page, and you can find this link there because he tweeted about it. So a number of people out there think, including President Trump, that the mainstream media has not been reporting on this story enough because it involves Democrats and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And so it's a great question. Will this story be asked about today in the press briefing, particularly because President Trump did retweet about it this morning? Will it be asked about? So that's a great point. Who told me? Who sent me that? Because it's an excellent question that you asked. That was Hamfried. Thanks again for reminding me, Hamfried. So personally, I think when I look at that story, there's some stories I look at and I'm like, well, that might be one side or the other, kind of trying to make a scandal out of nothing. Whereas this story, when you read the details about it, whether or not there's something like the degree of wrongdoing and nefariousness that goes on here, like some people think the A1 brothers were working for the Pakistani government and passing them information, or they were selling information to the Iraqis, or basically one thing people are worried about is that the A1 family members who had this access to all this, to the computer network in Congress, they might have been selling information to non-Americans. Now, that hasn't been shown yet, and I haven't seen any proof of that yet. But my point about this story is when you look at all the details, there are a lot of details there about financial improprieties. They owed a ton of money to various people. They moved a lot of money out of the country. A number of them have fled the country. So a lot of it seems very fishy, and at least it seems like it's definitely worth reporting on, especially given that this A1 brother is connected so deeply to Debbie Wasserman Schultz in that she refused to fire him, even though the other members of Congress were firing the members of the A1 family. So it definitely seems like worth the media's time to report about. We'll see how much they do report about it. So I'm actually looking forward to see if it's asked about during the press briefing today. Thank you, Hamfried, for reminding me I'd forgotten about the A1 brothers story. I had tweeted about it myself a couple days ago, but I had forgotten about it. So it is, all right, this is a little late. Now, these briefings do sometimes start late, but I'm a bit surprised it's this late because this briefing was supposed to start at 1:45. It's 2:09 now. President Trump has a 3 p.m. event, which we're going to show on a different stream on Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. You can find it on our YouTube page. It's an event where he is honoring the first responders to the Scalise shooting, who took care of the shooter and prevented further loss of life and injury there. So normally these briefings, when President Trump has an event, they try to get the briefing started on time, if not just so they can, get it, not interfere and cross over with President Trump's event. I have to imagine at this point this will be a pretty short briefing. I might be wrong. I don't want it to be a short briefing, but given that President Trump has an event that's supposed to start in 50 minutes, 50 minutes, I can't imagine this briefing will be that long. But we will keep an eye out. As soon as it starts, we will as soon as it starts, we'll go to it. You see it on the screen right now. And also, we will do a post show, except if this briefing ends like right as President Trump's event is starting, we might just not do a post show and just, because that event is starting, we don't want to conflict with that event. We'll let you know either way what we're doing here at Right Side. So, okay. If you would like to comment in while we're, I have a number of you wrote in, so let me get to your comments if I can get to them before we actually go to the briefing. Don John T writes in, Gateway Pundit just tweeted, Debbie Wasserman Schultz an absolute wreck, barely able to function since Imran A1 arrest. This is from Gateway Pundit. Let me see if I can show you that. So this is a news story from the Gateway Pundit. You can find it there if you're interested in reading it. Jim Hoff from Gateway Pundit puts up, Debbie Wasserman Schultz an absolute wreck, barely able to function since Imran A1 arrest, which we had just talked about, the arrest we just talked about here about 5 minutes ago. Thank you to Don John T for letting me know about that. Let's see. Gab I Turvricum writes in, Steve, what do you think about Scaramucci's total outplay of Reince Priebus on the issue of leaking? Scaramucci made this statement, which I think is both unbelievably telling and intelligent. And the Scaramucci statement you quote is, when the journalists who know who the leakers are, like Ryan Lizza. Oh, so what I guess there was a theory going around that that journalists, when Scaramucci first sent out his tweet last night, a bunch of journalists said, Scaramucci is saying that Reince Priebus is the leaker. And the thinking was that the journalists reported that Scaramucci was saying Reince is a leaker because they've in the past got leaked stuff from Reince Priebus. So because they know Reince is a leaker, that makes them more likely to report that Scaramucci thinks Reince is a leaker. So I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know whether the press has received leaks from Reince Priebus and whether that's a reason that they think that Scaramucci was calling out Reince Priebus in that tweet. I don't know about that. So it's an interesting theory. I have nothing intelligent to add because I am not party to those leaks and where they get them from. Thank you for writing in, though. Let's see here. Dejan Ribik writes in, I think the A1 story won't be asked about in the briefing because it throws bad light on Democrats. SH7401 said, I'm going to help you out here. See below for a quick rundown on A1 Brothers. Thank you, SH7401. I'm not going to put it up on the screen right now and read it because I think we're going to get to the briefing very, very soon, but I'll look at it after. Thank you. And there was another message here that I'm going to try to get to. Let's see. Cyrus Leone writes, Sessions cannot go after Hillary because Sessions recused himself. Jeff Sessions need to go, get out, resign today. That is from our viewer Cyrus Leone. Thank you for writing in, Cyrus. Okay. I'm surprised at how late the briefing is starting today because it was supposed to start at 1:45. It's now 2:15, 2:14. And President Trump has an event at 3, which we're going to show on a different stream at Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. So I'm wondering... Oh, okay, we're going to the briefing now. Enjoy the briefing. I'll see you after the briefing. Enjoy it.
This is how we find out. They tell us. And artists shouldn't have to work this way. Thanks, Connor.
Okay, I think I am back now. We had a bit of a false alarm. I apologize on behalf of Right Side. We thought the briefing was starting right now. I didn't make that up. We really did think it was starting, but it has not started yet. And so we'll stay on here. I think you can see me and hear me, but we're going to stay on here until the briefing starts. We'll keep an eye on it for you. I actually want to keep an eye on it out of the corner of my eye too. Oops, sorry. Let's turn that down. Oops. Okay, so we're live back. Okay, so I'll be here. You'll see me. Joe, I didn't know. Also, is it better if I'm in the other corner or like make me smaller? Feel free to, Joe, if you want to, feel free to make me smaller. I won't be offended. Just so people know that we're covering the briefing. But Joe's doing a fantastic job producing today and getting all the graphics up. Oh, she's coming out now. So we're going to go to the briefing live. Enjoy the briefing.
Good afternoon, you guys. Before we get started on some of the Q&A, I'd like to bring up Tom Homan, which some of you guys may know and remember, the Acting Director of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Rob Herr, the Principal Deputy Attorney General, to talk with you about what the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice are doing to eradicate criminal organizations like MS-13. Mr. Herr will speak to the Justice Department's work first, and then Mr. Homan will discuss the ICE component, and Tom will stay and answer your questions. As always, I'd like to put out a friendly reminder for you guys to stay on topic, and after that I'll come back up to take your questions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon. My name is Robert Herr. About 5 weeks ago, I was sworn in as the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General at the Department of Justice. In that role, I serve as the Principal Advisor to the Deputy Attorney General. I appreciate the chance to talk to you about the Justice Department's aggressive efforts to achieve this administration's goal of dismantling the transnational gang La Mara Salvatrucha, also known as MS-13. As you all know, the President is traveling to Long Island tomorrow to talk about our fight to eradicate the violent threat of MS-13. And as we speak, the Attorney General is in El Salvador, where he will spend the next 2 days addressing the root of this problem. the San Salvadorian prisons that house the leaders of this dangerous gang. While there, the Attorney General will meet with members of the Justice Department's Transnational Anti-Gang Task Force on the ground in El Salvador, and the Attorneys General from the Northern Triangle countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to discuss joint efforts to disrupt and take down MS-13. Earlier in my career, I served as a federal prosecutor in Maryland, where I personally prosecuted a number of MS-13 racketeering cases. These included capital cases, in which the defendants' crimes were so violent and so heinous that the government saw fit to pursue the death penalty. Through these prosecutions, I learned firsthand from the victims, their grieving and heartbroken families, and other members of terrorized communities just what a scourge this group of thugs really is. This gang's chilling motto is Mata, Viola, Controla, which means kill, rape, and control. They seek to live up to this motto through truly shocking acts of violence designed to instill fear. Vicious machete attacks, execution-style gunshots, gang rape, and human trafficking. They use whatever they can get their hands on: guns, knives, machetes, baseball bats, tire irons, or their fists and feet, not just to inflict violence. They use violence to shock, to send a message, and to control territory here in the U.S. and in Central America. The Attorney General has answered the President's call, and we at the Justice Department are moving forward aggressively against MS-13. Specifically, pursuant to the President's direction and executive orders, the Attorney General has directed the Department's law enforcement agencies, ATF, DEA, FBI, and the Marshal Service, as well as federal prosecutors across the country, to prioritize the prosecution of gang members, specifically MS-13. The Attorney General has issued charging guidance regarding violent crime and criminal immigration enforcement, both of which directly target MS-13 members and their associates. In addition, the Department of Justice has requested funding for 300 more federal prosecutors to focus specifically on violent crime and criminal immigration enforcement. We've also prioritized multi-agency and cross-border collaboration in order to attack MS-13 from all angles. The Justice Department and the Department of Homeland Security are coordinating our anti-gang efforts to ensure that we bring both criminal and immigration laws to bear in the fight against transnational gangs. We continue our critical partnerships with state and local law enforcement around the country, whose brave men and women are truly on the front lines in the fight against MS-13. And we work, of course, hand in glove with our law enforcement partners in the Northern Triangle countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. They are helping us take the fight to MS-13 on its home turf. It speaks volumes that the Attorney General himself has traveled to the nerve center of MS-13 and is standing in solidarity with our partners in Central America. Indeed, earlier today, just hours ago, El Salvadorian prosecutors announced that they have filed charges against and arrested over the past 36 hours hundreds of members of MS-13 in El Salvador. Many of the defendants are members of MS-13's Peajes Locos Salvatruchos clique, who are centered in the La Paz department of El Salvador. Earlier this year, members of this MS-13 clique committed several high-profile murders in El Salvador. The shooter in these murders fled to the United States and is now in ICE custody pending immigration proceedings. This prosecution showcases just how closely we are working with our partners in El Salvador to combat MS-13. Specifically, U.S. law enforcement agents with ICE, who are on the ground in El Salvador, are coordinating with their counterparts here in the U.S. to ensure that the shooter is removed from the United States as quickly as possible to face charges in El Salvador. This investigation is being handled by Salvadorian gang prosecutors, who are trained and mentored by embedded DOJ prosecutors in El Salvador, and Salvadorian police officers who were trained and mentored by the FBI and advisors from the State Department. At the request of Salvadorian prosecutors, the Justice Department has also arranged to have an essential witness to the murders transported to El Salvador for court proceedings. United States law enforcement and federal prosecutors recently targeted leaders and members of the same Peajos clique operating here in Maryland, charging 16 defendants with racketeering offenses involving murder and attempted murder, the last of whom was sentenced this year to life imprisonment. These are very significant blows to MS-13 and are made possible by our close cross-border coordination. We've also revitalized the institutional hearing program, which brings immigration judges to Bureau of Prisons facilities to adjudicate the immigration status of federal criminal alien inmates while they're incarcerated. This results in much quicker deportation after these criminals serve out their prison sentence. Finally, we are also holding sanctuary cities accountable for their lawless conduct. The Attorney General will not allow sanctuary cities to become sanctuaries for criminals. Earlier this week, the Attorney General announced new grant conditions. Cities and states may only receive burn JAG grants if they comply with federal law, allow federal immigration officials access to detention facilities, and provide 48 hours notice before they release an illegal alien wanted by federal authorities. Taking on MS-13 is a top priority of this administration and this Justice Department. We will not tire, and we will not fail. I'm humbled to once again be in a position to work to reduce and ultimately decimate this gang to make our communities safe for all Americans. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Holman. I'm the Acting Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE. Targeting, arresting, and removing members of violent street gangs such as MS-13 sends a clear message to criminal enterprises around the world. You are not welcome in the United States, and you will find no harbor here. President Trump made it a priority to get these criminals off our streets and, when possible, out of our country. And that's exactly what the men and women at ICE are going to do every single day to help keep America safe. ICE's Homeland Security Investigation, known as HSI, National Gang Unit, leads our efforts along with our deportation officers to identify and arrest gang members while working to dismantle the organizational structure that supports them. Gang members are involved in a broad range of criminal activity, including murder, extortion, narcotics trafficking, weapons trafficking, human smuggling, and other crimes with a nexus to border security. Since the beginning of January of this year, ICE's Homeland Security Investigation has already arrested 3,311 gang members across the country in a number of targeted operations. I'll speak just about two. Project New Dawn, a recent gang surge led by ICE HSI, netted 1,378 gang arrests. Operation Matador, up in New York State, since May 9th, has netted over 100 gang members and affiliates, vast majority of MS-13 members. Make no mistake, organized violent transnational gangs threaten the safety of our communities, not just in major metropolitan areas, but in our suburbs like Suffolk County in New York, where I'll be joining the President tomorrow to discuss this very issue. Let me share just a couple examples that demonstrate the violence of these criminals. Recently, 2 MS-13 members who were juveniles, arrested as part of Operation Matador, have been implicated in the quadruple homicide of 4 young adults in New York. An additional MS-13 arrest admitted to being complicit in homicides of 2 juvenile females. Multiple other Operation Matador MS-13 arrests have led to admissions of narcotics trafficking, weapons smuggling, and intelligence on other unsolved crimes in the region. The proliferation of MS-13 remains an ongoing challenge for law enforcement everywhere. Our efforts to eradicate gangs such as this are much more effective in areas where our partnership with local law enforcement is the strongest. As I said the last time I was here, I cannot stress enough our operatory city policies only make it more difficult, if not impossible, for ICE to remove known gang members and other criminal aliens who are removed from this country. Possible for ICE to remove known gang members and other criminal aliens who are removed from this country without the opportunity to commit additional crimes. As I said when I was here at the podium a month ago, cooperation is critical. It is often state and local law enforcement, not ICE, that first come into contact with transnational gang members. Together, through partnership, we can keep our streets safe. Together, our gang is bigger than theirs. In addition to making our communities safer, the intelligence gathered from operations targeting MS-13 helps our agents and investigators continue their efforts to fully dismantle these global criminal enterprises, from the command and control structure in El Salvador to the street members walking our communities and everybody in between. In closing, I'll say this: the progress we're making would not be possible without the brave and dedicated men and women of ICE. These are professionals American patriots who leave the safety of their homes and their families every day to help keep us safe, to keep people safe they'll never meet. And I am honored and proud to represent them here today. With that, I'll take questions. Sir?
Thank you. In Montgomery County, there has been MS-13 activity, and when they have prosecuted MS-13 there, they have said that the members of MS-13, some of them are citizens, and to get help from the immigrant community where they're plaguing, the plague is on the immigrant community, that they have not been successful because they're afraid of being taken out of the country, that you're going to deport them. So for those in the immigrant community who are being taken advantage of, are you going to offer any type of support for those who are not involved in MS-13 who come forward to assist law enforcement? Because local law enforcement says that's the largest problem they have in getting people to come forward. They think they're going to be deported.
Well, you all can help with that message, right? I mean, the mismessaging that ICE is out there doing, neighborhood raids and roadblocks and things that we were being accused of doing. We got to get the message straight. ICE prioritizes our arrests based on criminal threats, national security, those who violate immigration laws. However, if they're a victim or witness, we're not out looking for victims or witnesses. I believe that these, especially MS-13, they victimize the very communities in which they live. So if the immigrant community is being victimized, they don't want them in the community either. They should be safe to go to law enforcement, report the crime. Again, we do not target victims of crime. Matter of fact, there's actually benefits to victims of crimes through the immigration process. So they should feel safe to go and report criminal activity, and we're going to target the most violent criminals, not the witness, not the victims, to remove them. And we need their help. We need the community's help, and most importantly, we need local law enforcement's help, especially county jails that will have an MS-13 booked in that county jail, but if that county jail is located in Sanctuary City, they get released back to the streets. That's what we need to change. We need cooperation from local law enforcement.
But you're saying, point blank,
Ma'am.
you're not going to take advantage of the immigrant communities who are victims, right?
Taking advantage of the immigrant community. Look,
if they're victims, they're not going to be deported.
We need the immigrant community to assist us in identifying the most heinous criminals, and that's MS-13. It's the most violent gang out there. So again, I'll say this again: if there's a victim of crime and they come forward, we're not looking to arrest a victim of crime. We're looking to arrest the bad guy, right? Now let me make this clear. Now, am I saying there's a population of illegal aliens are off the table? I'm not saying that. But victims of crime have certain protections, and they need to take full advantage of those protections. Ma'am?
Thank you. Do you have a count for how many people are actually a part of the MS-13 in cities across the country? And what has the reaction been from sanctuary cities to the new policy that was announced earlier this week by the Attorney General? And if you could speak broadly about, obviously the President's been very critical of the Attorney General recently. He is overseeing everything that you're talking about. Has that criticism in any way impacted your ability, federal law enforcement's ability to do their jobs?
That's a lot of questions. I can tell you that thousands of MS-13 members in the country, and that number changes every day depending on who you report, who sneaks in the country. As far as sanctuary cities, I don't know how they feel about the recent legislation, the recent action taken by DOJ, but I'll say it once again. Sanctuary cities are criminals' biggest friend. If you're an alien smuggler, and you're smuggling people in this country for a living, that's one sales pitch. We can get you to a sanctuary city where that city will help shield you from immigration. So, I've said it every time I speak. I say it, sanctuary cities need to help us keep the community safe. Sanctuary cities not only endanger public safety, they endanger my law enforcement officers, because when we can't get a criminal alien, violent alien out of a county jail, it means one of our officers have to go knock on the door, which anybody in law enforcement knows that's one of the most dangerous things to do. So rather than arresting a violent criminal in the safety, security, and privacy of a county jail, we got to go knock on the door. We got to arrest them in the community. So the community's put at risk, our officers are put at risk, and the alien himself is put at risk. We got to start thinking about public safety and the men and women of ICE, and the men and women of the Border Patrol, who we've lost many over the last few years at the hands of violent criminal aliens. We got to join forces with these cities. These cities have to come to us. They have to work with us to keep our community safe. Sir?
The Attorney General, anything on the Attorney General?
What was the question, Attorney General?
The fact that the president's been criticizing him recently, has that in any way impacted your ability, federal law enforcement's ability to do their job?
ICE is going to do our job. We're going to continue to enforce the law. The Attorney General is a strong supporter of immigration enforcement. So isn't the President. And I'll end it there. But I can tell you, nothing's going to change the way we do our business. The men and women are ICE professionals. We're going to keep enforcing law within the orders of the executive order. Sir?
The previous administration also told the country to prioritize criminal gangs. Are you telling the country now that it didn't? And if you're not, what is different about your approach as compared to the previous administration's approach with MS-13 and those gangs like it?
Well, I can tell you that the prior administration prioritized criminals, not security threats. But the difference is, for those that criminal aliens get booked in a county jail, on the prior administration, they needed a conviction before we can even put a detainer on and ask for them to come in our custody. That's not necessary anymore. If you've been arrested for a serious crime and you're in a county jail, we're going to drop a detainer. We're going to take the person in the custody.
What does that mean, dropping a detainer?
That means we're asking the local jurisdiction to hang on to them until we can get there to take custody of them when they're done with you.
Has that proven effective?
Yes, I think we got more jurisdictions coming to the table now. Even, the story is, we got sanctuary cities here and there, but more jurisdictions, more law enforcement come to the table now. The 287G agreements, we've already doubled those agreements on this administration. I expect to triple those agreements by the end of the year. Most law enforcement agrees with what I'm saying up here. The street cops, they want to work with us, and they want to identify these threats to the community and get them out of their communities. These people are not welcome in the communities, and local law enforcement are teaming up with us. The operation I spoke about here in New York City, we work with Nassau County, Suffolk County, NYPD. All these jurisdictions want to get the criminal element out of their neighborhoods. The immigrant communities themselves, they don't want these people in their communities. We all should be on the same page here. But again, New York City, one of those places where we can't get into Rikers Island and put our hands on people that are here illegally and the criminal aliens. When it comes to gang members walk out of county jails and sanctuary cities every day across this country. That's what we need to change. Ma'am.
How are suspected gang members being identified for ICE enforcement? Is it just through local law enforcement? Are there databases that you're using? Like, how do you know how to find these gang members?
Local law enforcement, they're usually ones that, they have the most intelligence on gang members. As far as what we look for to find gang members, I'd rather not discuss that, because I certainly don't want to share that information with the gang members who may be watching and say, okay, well, we'll just do this a little bit different. There is a myriad of factors we look. It's just not, we don't arrest people for the way they look. I'm going to make that clear, because I've seen media accounts about people with tattoos and clothing. That is one of many, many factors we look at. So it's really quite law enforcement sensitive how we identify, target, and locate gang members. So I can tell you that the men and women of ICE are well trained. Other federal agencies, whether it's the Bureau or whether it's the Suffolk County, Nassau County, Nassau County, they do this for a living. They're professionals. They look at a lot of factors, including database checks. But I'd rather not share the factors we all consider. Look at that, because I really don't want to share that with the criminal element who may be watching this program.
Thank you. You said that victims of crimes who are immigrants will not be targeted. In February, your agency detained a woman in El Paso, Texas, who was seeking a protective order against a domestic abuser. Can you say now that your agency will not be doing that again? And if it's been done in the past, why should we believe you that it won't be done in the future?
Okay, with that case you're talking about, you obviously don't know all the facts that I do. That is not the way. There's much more of that story than you're presenting here today. I can tell you that was a solid arrest, and it's under litigation. I can't give you all the information I have. That was a good arrest. That was a public safety arrest, and I can't say any more because it's in litigation.
One last question, guys.
You focused, and the president's going to focus tomorrow on the most violent gangs, MS-13, and suggesting that that's what ICE is focused on. I'm reading a story here from just last month that said the biggest number that ICE arrests are up of illegal immigrants, and the sharpest spike is seen for non-criminals. I think that the other side of the issue would say that ICE and this administration really is going after non-criminals and just using these moments to sort of suggest otherwise. What do you think about that?
It's ridiculous. I mean, when under prior administration, non-criminals were not a priority. So when you go from 0 to 100, of course you can see the biggest rise in that. The executive orders are clear. Anybody reads the executive orders, no population's off the table. So non-criminals, yeah, those that are got a court order from a judge that refused to leave, we're looking for them. Those who enter the country legally, I've said it 100 times, that is a crime to enter this country illegally. And when they get their due process at great government, at great taxpayer expense, billions of dollars are spent on border security, immigration court, detention. So when they get their due process and a federal judge orders them removed, that order needs to mean something, or the whole system has no integrity. Nowhere else in law enforcement has anybody asked a law enforcement agency to ignore a judge's order from a bench. They've had a due process. Our job is to enforce those orders, and that's what we do. And for the people that say that we concentrate too much on those that are not criminals beyond them committing a crime entering the country illegally, they've not committed yet another crime. You should ignore them. They've been here. Let them go. That message drives what happened in San Antonio. That message drives what happened in Victoria, Texas, that I investigated back in 2003. If we send the message that if you get into the country, you get by the Border Patrol and don't get arrested by local law enforcement for another crime, no one's looking for you, that is a magnet, that is a pull factor. We got to stop that messaging. We got to tell people it's not okay to violate the laws of this country. You can't want to be a part of this country and not respect its laws. You can't have it both ways. So until we get that message clear, that there is no safe haven here, and if you're in sanctuary cities, that's where we'll send additional resources, look for you at your home, at place of employment. We're going to enforce the law. We got to stop sending the message that people that don't commit yet another crime should be forgotten. Don't enforce the law.
If I could, on a previous question, you said you need the cooperation of local communities. You hear that a lot from law enforcement, and including American immigrants, families that are maybe have mixed situations. The President, Trump, the other day called it in a speech in Ohio, twice referred to criminal gang members as animals. I think there are some who would say, well, that's sort of another attempt to paint broader swaths of immigrants as criminal and violent. He wasn't that specific about who he's talking about necessarily, and I'm wondering if you think that kind of rhetoric is appropriate, or whether that could, potentially set back some of your efforts in trying to convince community members to work with your department.
As a career law enforcement officer, I can tell you that criminal aliens are a threat not only to public safety, but to national security. We got to enforce the laws. The men and women at ICE are doing it in a professional manner. And I shared with you the last time I was here why it's so important to let the folks know in Central America and Mexico, let those that want to come to the United States to find themselves in a sanctuary city, why it's so important to send the message they should not make that dangerous trek. In my years of 33 years of doing this job, these are criminal organizations that transport these people into the country. The same organizations, the same illicit pathways that smuggle drugs, smuggle weapons, and smuggle people that want to do harm to this country. And by continuing to ignore that segment of the illegal population, we are bankrolling these criminal organizations. As I said earlier, sanctuary cities, that's the alien smuggler's best friend. That's their advertisement. We'll get you to a sanctuary city. And I'm telling you, what I've seen in my career, I've seen people that were killed could not pay their smuggling fee. I've seen, we talked to women that have been raped, children's been molested, people have been killed. I shared with a media yesterday in Phoenix, Arizona during the hostage crisis several years ago, people couldn't pay their fees. The fees would double once they got it. They couldn't pay the fees. We rescued one man who was duct taped from head to toe. His whole face and head were duct taped, and had a hole poked in the mouth with a straw so he could breathe for 2 days. When I was in Victoria, Texas, I did stand in back of a tractor trailer in 19 Dead Aliens with a 5-year-old that suffered. What do you think that 5-year-old went through the last 30 minutes of his life? What do you think his father went through the last 30 minutes of his life, looking down at his child, knowing he couldn't help him because they're locked him back to the tractor trailer? I'm not calling anybody animal. I'm saying there's those who break the law and those who don't break the law. You got to respect the laws of this country. There's millions of people that are members of society that enter this country the right way, and that's what we need to push. We need to push. Enter this. There's a legal way and an illegal way. We got to be pushing the legal message out there and stop sending this message that if you don't commit yet another crime beyond the crime you committed when you came to this country, that it's okay to be here. It's not okay to be here illegally. It's not okay to violate the laws of this country. We're going to enforce law. That is why, with everything you're reading right now and all these horrific events, that's why we need more. We need the 10,000 officers that President Trump has promised, so we can go after these gangs even harder in the criminal alien population. We need the border wall. Border wall is one more tool in the toolbox that might prevent some of the things from happening. That is why what President Trump is asking us to do, that is what he's proposing for border security, makes sense to the law enforcement community. Not just Tom Homan at ICE, but the 20,000 men and women that work at ICE, the 20,000 Border Patrol agents that wear the uniform and step on the front line every day, we need this help. We need these executive orders to make sense of what we do every day.
Thanks so much, Tom. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Tom, Rob. Just like the dedicated men and women of ICE and DOJ who are unquestionably producing results every day in these fights against vicious cartels, Senate Republicans now have an opportunity this evening to deliver on one of our biggest promises to the American people. On the Hill, the Senate is gearing up for a series of votes on the Republican plans to finally repeal and replace Obamacare and replace it with the Freedom Health Care Bill. Congressional Republicans have been telling the American people that given the chance, they would save them from this increasing damage of this disastrous law. After 7 years of skyrocketing premiums and dwindling health care options, now is their chance to act. The President looks forward to seeing the Senate fulfill that promise later tonight when they finally repeal Obamacare and end the nightmares it has caused for American families and businesses. I hate to start the Q&A off on a low note, but I wanted to get ahead of some of the personnel-related questions and just let you guys know ahead of time that no, I cannot confirm whether or not Sean Spicer will be on Dancing with the Stars upon leaving the White House. And with that, I will take your questions. Jonathan.
Sarah, does the President have confidence in his Chief of Staff?
Look, I think I've addressed this question when it comes to staffing and personnel many times, that if the President doesn't, then he'll make that decision. We all serve at the pleasure of the President, and if he gets to a place where that isn't the case, he'll let you know.
So you can't say right now if the President has full confidence in Chief of Staff Lance Priebus?
I think I just answered that. Look, I think what we have, this is a White House that has a lot of different perspectives because the President hires the very best people. They're not always going to agree. There are going to be a lot of different ideas. Unlike previous administrations, this isn't groupthink. We all come and have a chance to voice those ideas, voice those perspectives, and have a lot of healthy competition. And with that competition, you usually get the best results. The President likes that type of competition and encourages it. The people that are here because they love the President, they love this country, and they want to see the best things happen. And sometimes you're going to have different ideas come to the table. That's all we're talking about.
Public humiliation of both the Attorney General and now the Chief of Staff, left to kind of wonder about their own fate, their own status within this administration.
I don't know that the President's spoken about that, particularly on Attorney General Sessions. Look, he's been clear that he was disappointed with his decision to recuse himself, but at the same time, as I've said, look, Attorney General Sessions knows better than anybody that the President and his campaign had nothing to do with Russia, and his decision to recuse himself was disappointing to the President. At the same time, the President wants him to do his job, do it properly. He wants him to be tough on the intelligence leaks, and he wants him to move forward.
Lindsey Graham says there will be holy hell to pay if Attorney General Sessions is fired. What does the President say to that?
You know, I haven't asked him about Lindsey Graham's comments. Matthew.
Thanks, Sarah. The Pentagon has announced that the President's statements via Twitter did not change the transgender policy in the military, and that the White House actually has to issue a policy directive to the Secretary of Defense to make that change happen. So 2 questions. Does the President plan to do so? And if so, how will that affect transgender troops that are currently serving?
As I said yesterday, the White House will work with the Department of Defense and all of the relevant parties to make sure that we fully implement this policy moving forward and do so in a lawful manner.
What is the policy, and was the President aware that he can't make policy changes via statements on Twitter? Because the Pentagon is saying...
I think he was making the announcement of the policy change.
So the policy hasn't yet been formulated?
Well, like I said, they were going to have to work out the details on how that all moves forward to lawfully implement that policy change from this point.
Sarah, thank you. Moving on to healthcare, you talked about how Senate Republicans have the chance tonight to really undo Obamacare, but it seems like the thing that's most likely to get through is the skinny repeal. And that would just kind of, that would maybe get rid of the mandate and some other things. But it's not the massive overhaul that had been promised. So would the White House support just a skinny repeal that being signed into law?
We certainly support progress moving forward, and that's what we're seeing taking place in the Senate right now. And I think that that's the place where we've been since we started this, is we're looking for moving the ball forward down the field, repealing and replacing it with a better healthcare system, and this is one step within that process.
But does the White House believe that a skinny repeal on its own would be enough to address the issues of premiums, you know, rising premiums and deductibles and things like that? Like, would the president sign just a skinny repeal?
Well, we've got to see what they get to tonight. We haven't seen a final piece of legislation. We're continuing to work with the Senate to make sure we get the best health care we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sarah, I want to ask two questions, one about the president's management style and one about immigration enforcement. So on the president's management style, is the president aware that occasionally, like days like yesterday when he had a big jobs announcement he wanted to roll out, that his seemingly impulsive decisions to make an announcement on transgender troops steps on his own message? Is the president aware of that dynamic, and is he interested in changing it at all?
I think the president's aware that he can walk and chew gum at the same time. This is a White House that takes on a lot of different things every day, not just one, and we're going to continue to do that moving forward.
On immigration, I have a question about immigration enforcement. So this week when the president spoke in Ohio, he spoke about MS-13 and he gave a litany of the violence that they're capable of. And then he said, our guys are rougher than their guys. What did the president mean by that?
I think the president means that our guys are going to do whatever it takes to protect Americans, protect American lives, protect our borders.
Is that a license for the use of more force when it comes to making arrests against MS-13?
Look, the president wants people to do their jobs, not go beyond the scope of what they should do, but he wants to protect our country. He wants to protect American people, and he's asked the law enforcement agencies to step up and help be part of that process, as I think we would all expect for them to.
Does he want law enforcement agencies to change the rules of the use of force when it comes to making the arrests against MS-13?
I'm not aware of any specific changes.
Hey, Sarah. Anthony Scaramucci was on CNN today talking about Reince Priebus. He said, quote, if he wants to prove he's not a leaker, let him do it. I can't imagine that you would speak on Anthony's behalf, but if you would, does he think that Reince Priebus is a leaker, or does the White House, does the president think that Reince is leaking?
I'm not going to comment on Anthony's suggestion. I'll let him answer for himself. I think I made pretty clear where the president is, and I don't have anything to add beyond that.
I have a tax question too, Cruz. Does the president believe that tax overhaul should increase the budget deficit, or should it be revenue neutral?
Look, we're continuing to make announcements on the details of the tax reform plan. As I'm sure you all saw, there was a joint statement that came out earlier today, and we're making a lot of progress on this front. As we get closer to lining out the final details, we'll certainly be putting those out in front of all of you. The big pieces are simplification and helping take off the relief for the middle class. Those are big places that we're really focused, and we're going to continue to do that. As you saw from the statement, the border adjustment tax was taken off the table, and that's another big step forward in the process. Peter?
Sarah, can I ask you quickly about Anthony Scaramucci, a little bit of housekeeping?
Only if you do it quickly.
Fine. Has he taken an oath of office?
I'm sorry?
Has Anthony Scaramucci taken an oath of office?
Not that I'm aware of.
Have his security clearances gone through yet?
As always, we do not discuss security clearances.
Is he official member of the White House staff now? Initially, it was announced that it would be in mid-August.
He is working at the White House, but on your other questions, I can't answer.
Let me follow up that on December. If you would.
We're going to go with one question Thursday because we're kind of tight on time. As you guys know, the president's got to open.
I was following the front row. Let me ask you about the Boy Scouts then, if I can, very quickly.
I'm going to actually go to John. Sorry, Peter.
Thank you, Sarah. I do have to ask you about the health care bill. Many who are in the Freedom Caucus say that they would oppose the skinny repeal that was referred to earlier, that if a measure came out with just ending the mandates and ending the tax on medical devices, that would, and not addressing anything else, they'd vote against it. Is the president aware of this, and is he making any calls for specific parts of the repeal effort?
Look, the administration's been working hand in hand on pushing repeal and replace of Obamacare. We actually like the term freedom bill a lot better because we think it addresses what this bill actually is. It removes a lot of those mandates that allow people to have the type of freedom, have states have the freedom that they want. And that was one of the big priorities for this administration. We're, happy about that progress, and we're going to wait and see where this bill ends up later this evening. John Decker.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Is the president, just to follow up on what John Gizzi just asked you, I don't think you got to that particular part of the question.
Sorry.
Is the president picking up the phone? Is he calling those 7 or 8 Republican senators, making the case for them that this may be their last best hope for repealing and replacing Obamacare? And if he is, what's his message to those particular senators?
The same one he's been making all along. Let's get the job done. Let's replace a terrible healthcare system with a better one. And he's going to be engaged, and I'll keep you posted on any specifics and people that he talks to. Peter?
Had all of those Republican senators here at the White House last week, Sarah.
Sorry, guys, we're real tight on time. I'm really going to try to keep you to one question. Let's be polite to your colleagues. Go ahead, Peter.
Anthony Scaramucci said this morning that the president might veto the Russia sanctions bill, even though Senator Corker has now withdrawn his objection, and the same version that we've already seen from the House is going to be up for the Senate vote. Is that in fact possible? Will he veto a bill that passed with just 3 negative votes in the House and 2 negative votes in the Senate?
As I said yesterday, the president and the administration support sanctions against Russia, Iran, and North Korea. We continue to support strong sanctions against those 3 countries, and we're going to wait and see what that final legislation looks like and make a decision at that point. As soon as we have a final piece of legislation, we'll let you know.
In terms of working with the DOD on this new policy, how long is it going to be before we find out what the details are?
I don't have a specific timeline, but I believe they're going to start moving on it quickly, but we'll keep you posted as those details come out. Again, I don't have a specific timeline on what that looks like, but I know that they're ready to start moving and work on that implementation. Major?
Thanks. Several Senate Republicans have sent signals to this White House. 1, don't make a recess appointment because we're not going to allow it. 2, there's not going to be a confirmation hearing if there's a new Attorney General nominated. There is a signal being sent, don't do what we fear you might be contemplating. Can you, for the betterment of the Senate Republicans who are working with this White House on a lot of issues, put to rest once and for all the status of the Attorney General? He's not going to be fired, there's not going to be a need for a recess appointment, and this issue can be laid to rest for the country and for Senate Republicans who appear, based on their public statements, to be anxious about this prospect.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure how many times you have to lay an issue to rest. I've tried many times.
No, but when you don't say the president has confidence and the president says time will tell, as he said earlier this week, I'm only telling you what Senate Republicans who are in a position to have to deal with this are saying.
And I've answered your question, and yesterday you probably saw a statement come out from here that was more fake news from the Washington Post on the fact that we were considering a recess appointment. I think that sums that up pretty clearly.
Thanks, Sarah. This is a little, maybe just a little bit off topic, but I want to run it by you anyway. Is the president aware of the story?
It's probably good if we mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, why not, right? Is the president aware of the story of the IT staff, or the congressional IT staffer who most recently worked for Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Imran Awan, who was recently arrested attempting to leave the country, although he said he was not trying to flee the country. Is the president aware of that particular circumstance, and is he satisfied with the pace of the investigation?
I haven't had a conversation with him specifically about that, but I do think it is something we should fully look into, and there should be a thorough investigation on that. Kristen.
Since we only have one question, I'm going to ask you about the Boy Scouts.
You gotta make it count.
Chief wrote this to family members who were at the president's events earlier this week. I want to extend my sincere apologies to those in our scouting family who were offended by the political rhetoric that was inserted into the Jamboree. That was never our intent. We sincerely regret that politics were inserted into the scouting program. Does the president owe the Boy Scouts an apology?
I was at that event, and I saw nothing but roughly 40 to 45,000 Boy Scouts cheering the president on throughout his remarks. And I think they were pretty excited that he was there, and happy to hear him speak to them.
Why is that? The Boy Scouts have acknowledged that there was a problem. A lot of parents have expressed frustration in the wake of those comments, and felt the need to actually write a letter about it. So does the president owe them an apology?
Again, I was at that event and heard nothing but a lot of cheering and probably one of the most energetic crowds I've seen in front of the president. And so I don't have anything to add. I haven't seen the statement from the Boy Scouts, so I can't comment any further than what I saw firsthand, and that was a lot of individuals, roughly 40 to 45,000 as reported, cheering the president on. Zeke.
I have two for you real quick if you don't
You
mind.
have one. Remember, there's a rule today.
I'll be quick. First, on Anthony Scaramucci on CNN this morning, he said he had a conversation with Attorney General Jeff Sessions about these supposed leaks. That would appear to violate DOJ guidelines, so I was hoping you could provide some clarity on that front. And secondly, out of Alaska today, the local paper there is reporting that Senator Murkowski received a phone call from Secretary of Interior Zinke threatening the people of, essentially threatening the services and federal dollars that were spent and the administration's posture towards the people of Alaska if she voted a certain way on the health care bill. I was hoping if you could confirm that and discuss whether that sort of conversation, if it happened, would be appropriate.
I'll answer both of your questions with one answer so that it keeps it somewhat fair, since you kind of broke the rules. But I'm not going to speak about conversations between cabinet members and other individuals that I wasn't a part of and haven't had a chance to talk to either individual about. Francesca?
Thank you, Sarah. You suggested that the president continues to have confidence in Reince Priebus based on the fact that he's still in the position, and he's a friend of Anthony Scaramucci, who's coming into the administration. At this point, based on what we've seen quite publicly playing out, though, does he think they at least need to sit down and talk, as House Speaker Paul Ryan said, and get whatever this is out of their system so that they can start off on the right foot here?
I don't know if he has an opinion on what they should do between the two of them. I think the president, as always, enjoys healthy competition and conversation, and he sees that as such. I've got to wrap up here because the president is getting ready to do an event, which I know you all probably want to attend. And I want to leave you with just one last thing before I close out on an important development. You guys love to talk about Russia, and there's been nonstop coverage. And the one day that there might have been a question on Russia, there wasn't. Often we have a lot of media with Russia first, and but today there was public testimony that further discredited the phony dossier that's been the source of so much of the fake news and conspiracy theories, and we learned that the firm that produced it was also being paid by the Russians. This is yet the latest piece of evidence that vindicates what the president has said, that this is a witch hunt and a hoax. And it's a shame that the president and the country have had to go through this charade continually, and hopefully this will help us move forward in that process. And with that, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
That was the Sarah Sanders White House press briefing. This is the post show for the press briefing. It's going to be kind of a shorter version of the post show because President Trump is going to be doing an event very shortly where he honors the first responders to the Steve Scalise shooting. If you want to watch that event when President Trump honors the first responders, that's going to be on Right Side as well. We actually already have the event up. You can click out, you can open up that window as well as this one, have them both open at once. To find that window, you can go to the Right Side broadcasting page on YouTube, and it'll be right there. It'll say live, and you can click on it there. So that's going to start very soon. I am Steve Lichtner. This is the post show. We'd love to get your comments. What did you think about the press briefing? What did you think about the questions that were asked? What did you think about the answers that were given? If you have any thoughts, give me a shout on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner, and let me know what you think. We'll do a few minutes here. I'll read your comments on the air. Also, we got a donation from Lars during the press briefing. Thank you so much, Lars. We really appreciate it. We're viewer supported here at Right Side Broadcasting. You allow us to stay on the air and give you an alternative to the mainstream media. So if you'd like to donate to us, that'll allow us to cover more President Trump rallies, do more news coverage, do more press briefing coverage. If you'd like to donate, you can go to rsbn.tv/donate. That's rsbn.tv/donate. Or you can go to the YouTube chat right now next to the broadcast and click on the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat. All right, I want to see, I know some of you wrote in some stuff during the briefing, so I just wanted to get some of your comments here. Tom Wellborn wrote in that he thinks Sarah Sanders is the leaker. I haven't heard any kind of information that would confirm that at all, but that's what Tom Wellborn wrote in. Juggalo Caesar wrote in, glad to see they're cracking down on gangs now. I wish they would take juggalos off the gang list, which is not a gang but a fan group. Peggy Sue Chef writes in, after the press briefing, would you comment if CNN is in that room? I'm wondering if they have been dubbed fake news. Can they? Yes, they're in the room. No one's been kicked out of the room as far as I'm aware from the major news networks. So they are, like the other major news networks, are still there. Proud American writes in, Kevin Cork is a based reporter. Kevin Cork is a based reporter. Very good question on the IT staffer. That's from Proud American. And let's see here. Andrew Silva says Sarah Sanders was amazing, especially with that last bit regarding Russia. Yeah, there was that bit right at the end where Sarah Sanders said, people, you could have asked on this Russia question today. She said, like, the one day that there could have been I think she was implying a legit Russia question is the day. I guess there was a report out that said that file of dubious info that was talked about a lot during the campaign and after the campaign against President Trump, that the former British intelligence officer made, and that was paid for, was it Fusion GPS, paid for by them? She said there was a report that the Russians had paid for that file, and so she thinks that would have been something good for the press to ask about, but it wasn't asked about, and so she said that was evidence that this whole Russia thing is a witch hunt. And in the first part of that briefing, we had the Associate Deputy Attorney General and the head of the ICE talk about the is it MS-13? Am I remembering that right? The MS-13 gang, and they also were talking about sanctuary cities. And the head of the ICE had some very strong words, and he said, I know one thing that struck me from what he was talking about was when he really passionately argued that it's not okay to let people just break the law. And he said that people, the government's view, the administration's view is that people who are in here illegally, that's breaking the law in the country illegally, and it's not okay. We shouldn't be waiting till they break another law to take action against those people. He says it's not. He says that there's a culture of it being okay for them to break the law, and he said the ICE's view and the administration's view is that that's not okay. Jerry OOG just gave $10. Thank you so much, Jerry OOG. We really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Once again, very soon, we are going to have the President's Thank You event where he thanks and honors first responders. That event is... it's not happening yet. If you want, you can open up the window next to this window. Right Side Broadcasting, if you go to our YouTube page, it's on our YouTube page, and you can see it. But it's not live yet, but... you can open the window and watch the video, but the video just says it's starting soon. So feel free to open that while you're watching this. And feel free to give me a shout about the press briefing. This is the post show. I'm Steve Lookner. Would love to get your feedback. What'd you think of the press briefing? Give me a shout on Twitter, @Lookner, @LOOKNER. Let me know what you thought. JC writes in, Sarah Sanders was and is awesome. Mic drop. That's from JC. JC, one of our moderators. Thank you to all the moderators for all your hard work today. King's Kid 1776 says, never a mention of... Oh, sorry. That was for something else. That was a response to a different tweet I sent out. So I don't want to read that because he might not have been responding to this. I'm looking for your other comments here. Just making sure I got to all your emails as well. I think I'm caught up here. So she was asked, Sarah Sanders was asked about the transgender policy, and she didn't specify anything more about the transgender policy that President Trump declared. She said when he tweeted it out, it was an announcement of the policy, but she didn't commit to any kind of any kind of specific policy about what will happen to people already in the military who are transgender. Will they be forced to leave or not? So that's still apparently either still to be determined or still to be made public. There were a couple of questions on Reince Priebus and Scaramucci. A couple of people I think one of the first question might have been, if I remember right, does he still have confidence in Reince Priebus? And so, we didn't really get any new information. I'm not surprised on that. When the press secretaries, when Sean Spicer and Sarah Sanders are asked that kind of question, they tend to defer to the president and say, it's up to the president. And if the president doesn't want someone, they'll get rid of them, and if not, not. So, you know, we didn't really get any. I didn't see like we got much new information on the whole situation with Scaramucci and Priebus. Rhonda Keller just gave $10 Canadian. Thank you so much, Rhonda. We really appreciate it. Very kind of you. That will help us stay on the air and cover the next presidential rally. We just covered the one on Tuesday. If you didn't see it, check out our coverage. It's like 6 hours of coverage. Maybe it might be 7 hours of coverage. So we had fun doing it. Thank you, Rhonda. Proud American says she should call on Kevin Corke more. That is from Proud American. Let's see here. I'm checking my news to see if there's any kind of updates on anything that maybe came up during the press briefing. Also, I want to check that, see where we are at with the, I want to get up on the screen the presidential event, because I will end this when the president is about to start. Again, president is honoring Steve Scalise first responders today, coming up very shortly in just minutes, if not seconds. So open up that other window from YouTube. Go to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. You can find the other event. You can open up that as well as this, which I had it open and I accidentally closed it, so I need to open it again. Let's see. Okay, we're still waiting for that to begin. And we are taking your feedback about the press briefing. What did you think? Give me a shout on Twitter, at Lookner, at LOOKNER. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and to follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter, at RSB Network. And also, like and follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell when you do. There was questions asked. I'm trying to think, you know, it actually, I will say this. I was pleasantly surprised at how little was asked about Scaramucci and Priebus. There were some questions on the health bill, as we predicted. There were questions on, I know I'm forgetting stuff, the transgender policy I already said. I don't recall there being any questions on the whole Lisa Murkowski thing, where there was a report that the president had threatened the senators of Alaska with perhaps less support. The White House had threatened them if they didn't support the health bill. But I didn't, when the briefings are on, I'm working in addition to watching, so sometimes I miss questions that were asked. So maybe somebody did ask about that. I wonder also, so today is Thursday if I'm right, I'm not sure if there'll be a briefing tomorrow. I honestly don't know yet, because sometimes they don't have briefings on Fridays, but maybe with Scaramucci as the new communications director, they'll start having 5 briefings a week. I don't know. We look forward to seeing. Now, Andrew, you just sent me like a meme thing, but I can't show that, Andrew. It's kind of naughty. I'm not allowed. Christina Hainsana just donated $5 and said, "Freedom support Mr. Trump." Very nice of, sorry, Christina. Chantha Hanasana. Am I pronouncing that right? Chantha Hanasana. I apologize. Gave us $5 and said, "Freedom support Mr. Trump." Thank you, Chantha. Very nice of you. Very generous. We appreciate those donations. That lets us do these broadcasts. Let's see. Reagan Better says, why are they meeting behind closed doors on repeal? Are you saying why are they not debating it in public? Reagan Better, feel free to write again, Reagan Better. I'm not sure I'm getting exactly what you're, I want to get your question right, what the reasoning is behind it. So feel free to clarify. Now, I'm guessing though that for the senators debating healthcare, you know, there hasn't been a big public debate about it in terms of like on the Senate floor. I mean, one thing is just political reasons that they might not want to get out there taking certain positions that will be held against them, say in the upcoming election 2018. So maybe they think it's in their interest to like keep their positions as not public as possible. Now, some people might think that's irresponsible of them as democratically elected leaders, but maybe that's the thinking, is they want to be able to talk without having it be all reported in the press and maybe getting bad press from it. Troy Makovica says, I don't know if you've seen my question on Twitter. It said, will you guys be working on getting a White House press badge so you can ask the important questions like North Korea? So, you know, at this point, we're a very small company, and we don't have somebody like who's able to like, even if it's possible, I guess, that we might be able to get a press badge, but we'd have to send somebody there every day. And that's an awesome idea. We would totally want to do that, but like, we don't have a lot of funds here, right? Like, we're a very small organization, and we get by on a minimum of funding. So, and as I've said, you know, we're viewer supported by you. So if we had somebody who was just there and was able to go every day, who we didn't have to pay at all, that's different. And somebody who's really good, you know, and it's something we have. It's something we would like to do in the future, and it's definitely on higher on our to-do list. But also, I will say this, you know, if you look at the briefings, they tend to call on the same people every time, and so even if we had somebody there, there's no guarantee we would even get called on. But we would love to be there. So it's something it's on our to-do list. If we can expand the network a little more, get a little more funds, have some more resources, it's definitely on our to-do list. It's just that right now we're very, very, very small. So we have to do the best we can with what we have. Thank you, Troy, for writing in. Oh, and we are all right. We're live with the President Trump event. The President Trump event is live. Go check that out. I'm going to end the live stream for this now. Go check out President Trump honoring Scalise first responders. It's on our YouTube page. You can see it there. Have a great day from Right Side Broadcasting.